So I probably had my first seizure when I was 13, but because there were no witnesses, we don't know that. I know the feeling I had before the seizure. I'm telling you it was a seizure. I know it was. But I passed most of the tests, except failed the EEG when I was 13. Felt good, never went back to a doctor again. 16 and a half, we moved to Florida. I'm driving in my 77 Ford Mustang with my cousin on the way to visit her brother, my other cousin at college, and I had a petite mal seizure behind the wheel of the car, but then it manifested itself into a grand mal seizure where I stomped on the gas and we almost crashed into a toll booth. Luckily, I was not really fully conscious. My cousin was able to steer through the toll booth. So that's when I was diagnosed. I came home 2 hours later with a diagnosis of epilepsy. And, you know, my mother came in the room, and she was a woman. She was one of my role models in answer to your earlier question. Very strong woman, had a stroke at the age of 39 and really recovered very well from that. But it was a long haul. And she said, listen, you have friends, you're funny, you're good looking, you're smart, and guess what? You're also an epileptic. And we're going to deal with this. It's going to keep you grounded, and we're going to get through this. Now, I didn't listen, as I said, the first 2 years. I did go into depression. When I was about 18 or 18 and a half, I did start to go to the library and research it more. But that's when I was first officially diagnosed as a teen at around age 17.
You mentioned that you have a bit of a sixth sense when it comes to struggling kids. Tell me about that.
I can just tell by looking into a boy or girl's eyes, and even parents, that there's something going on. I can tell by the way if they're sleeping in class. I can tell by the way they enter the room. And it's not that I'm a magician. It's that I had that. I walked in and keep in mind that I was diagnosed at age 17. I didn't tell anybody until I was 54 and the book came out. 10 people knew I had epilepsy, and 3 of those were doctors. Even as an adult, I looked at it as a stigma, and I thought people would think I was weak. And that was a mistake. I could have helped children. I always helped children in my career, but I knew kids when I was in my 20s that I was teaching students in my class. I knew they had epilepsy. There were no HIPAA laws back then. So when their file had said it, I knew they were on the same medication I was on. It didn't say anything to them. I see, your gums are bleeding. I have the same medication. It didn't do that. So I'm making up for lost time now. But that sixth sense is in the classroom all the time. Even when I'm speaking to people out of the classroom, when I'm tutoring online virtually, I just can tell by the sound of the voice when someone's tired. There's so many things students are struggling with now. The divorce rate is over 51%. I want to say that, I don't know the exact numbers. I think teen suicide is up 30-40% over the past 10 or 15 years. And bullying has taken on a whole new picture with definition with social media and cyberbullying and things of that nature. It's not back in the day when they just said you're ugly, you're fat, or you stink at baseball. As bad as that was and as hurtful as that was, this goes way beyond that. So I'm able to notice these things because when I was their age, I suffered with these things. So that sixth sense has made me a better teacher, I'm a certified life coach also, but it just made me a better human being. I was able to help my own children. My son was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome when he was 15, and my wife was amazed at how well I dealt with it and how methodical I was and a little detached, just doing what needed to be done. And she said, how can you handle this so well? And it finally dawned on me then, Herbert, that, hey, the teacher light bulb went off. If I could help you, I could help our son, I could help me deal with this, I can help others. And that's when I finished the book that I had started 15 years earlier. So that whole thing, the writing process itself, has given me the sixth sense. But I've had that through my career because of how I suffered as a teen and how I dealt with it and how I met myself at my reality. I have epilepsy. Okay, get over it. You have it. How are we going to deal with it? And then at like age 19 or 20, that's when I hit the ground running.
Do you think with this sixth sense, you can feel it over the internet, text, not the internet, but text or a phone call from somebody?
I would say absolutely. I'm wondering, that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that. So because I'm an English teacher, I do something called hear through the noise. I can tell through text. Rough day today. I'm going to be 5 minutes late for the lesson. I don't then go online for the lesson and say, let's get started. Everything okay? So I try to elicit responses from them. So nothing beats in person, but when I do the online tutoring, it's almost the same because they're on the phone with me or I turn the audio on the screen. It's really rapport. So I think that because of the sixth sense I have and the experience I've had, that I can get information from someone and hear and feel what's going on with them, regardless if it's in person or not. If you don't have that sixth sense, it doesn't matter if they're sitting right next to you. So, yeah, I think you lose something in text, but, texting is like our right hand now. So texting has almost become real conversation. It drives me crazy, but my clientele is mostly students, teenagers, so I have to get used to it. So I think some might be lost, but it can still be very effective. And I don't believe I lose that sixth sense, whether it be texting, online emails, or anything. Language is language, and communication is communication.
I don't believe that most adults feel or even know they have the sixth sense. Is there something that they can do when conversing with their kids or their grandchildren or their nieces or nephews that will help them be aware that the child has an issue?
Yes, absolutely. Talk with them, not at them. Eliciting is the main thing, because I know teachers have called a kid out in the second period, and they've been nice with the sixth sense and said, "Is everything okay?" And the child might say, yes. So when I do classroom management training of adults and teachers, I say that's not enough. And I do some role plays with, types of icebreakers about how to ask the right questions. So I just call a kid out and I say, "Who's the issue with?" "Nobody. Everything's fine." "Come on, is it your mother?" "No." "Your father?" "No." "A teacher?" "Yes." "Tell me what happened." They're not forthcoming. No one not taps on the shoulder and says, "Can I speak to you outside? I'm very upset. My girlfriend broke up with me, so I'm not going to pay attention in class." They don't communicate that way. So you have to learn to elicit. If you go into education, to me, you're a special person anyway. So you go in for your love of children. And but asking the right questions and being persistent. They're not always forthcoming. Once you elicit, better back up and watch out, because once they trust you and once they see you have that sixth sense that you're going further and you really care, the floodgates open. So be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
I would like to make you available to all of my listeners. So please, one more time, what's the best way for them to contact you? That is text, phone, websites, what have you. Let them know again.
Thank you. So my education site, which is in-person tutoring, but mostly online now, is www.gradesuccess.com, like you're in the fourth grade, GRADESUCCESS.com. My author site, speaking, the training, the camps, the schools that I go to, the best site for that is my name, www.marchoberman.com, Marchoberman.com. They can always call me at 845-369-7967. And a great email would be info@gradesuccess.com. And for your listeners, I'll go even more personal. Marc, MARC, @gradesuccess.com. Those are the best ways to reach me, and I'm happy to speak to anybody, certainly your listeners.